System security. System security. In this video, we're going to talk about system security. System security is the protection of computer systems. Look at the padlocks. It's the protection of computer systems. When you see the word system security or the words system security, think of protecting computer systems. Right. What do we need to protect computer systems from? Malware. Malware stands for malicious software. Malicious means bad, so malicious software. Any software designed to damage your computer is malware. It could be a virus, a worm, a Trojan. They're all malware. So malware is malicious software. First type of malware we're going to discuss is a virus. A virus is software that copies itself from computer to computer, causing harm as it copies itself. So it copies itself from computer to computer to computer to computer, and it causes harm. It could delete files, it could make software difficult to use, it could delete files, it could make software difficult to use. So a virus is malware, software that live in a world where people are always trying to attack your computer system. There are a number of ways to do this that we will go through. So there's so many types of attack now. We can only go through a few of them, but people are always trying to attack your system. You may be one of them who wants to attack people's systems. Not a good idea. Virus can replicate. It can replicate. Replicate means make copies of itself. So a virus can replicate. It can replicate and spread. A virus can replicate. Viruses can replicate. A Trojan horse. A Trojan horse. A Trojan horse. A Trojan is malware that hides inside seemingly harmless programs or tries to trick you into installing it. Trojans do not replicate by infecting other files or computers. Now, let's break that down. A Trojan is malware. The Trojan hides inside software that seems harmless. It hides inside software that seems harmless. When you click those links online, they say, install this free antivirus. You're very likely to get a Trojan. Or the Trojan tries to trick you into installing it. It just tries to trick you into installing it onto your system because it looks harmless. Trojans do not replicate. They don't replicate by infecting other computers. Spyware. Spyware is malware that watches the keys you press, trying to record your password and your personal information. Spyware. So spyware is malware that watches the keys that you press, trying to record your password and personal information. It's a great way of doing fraud. Ransomware. Ransomware. A ransom is when you kidnap somebody and asks their relatives to pay a big price. That's what a ransom is. So ransomware is a type of malware that locks your computer and all the files so that you can't have access to them until you pay a big price. That's ransomware. So you hold the user to ransom. Ransomware is a type of malware that locks your computer and all the files so that you can't access them until you pay a big price. Ransomware. Phishing. 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 Just like phishing, trying to reel someone in. Phishing. Phishing is trying to obtain sensitive information. For example, usernames, passwords, credit card details. How it's done is you get an email that looks as if it comes from a bank or another trusted source, and it tries to trick you into clicking a link to get your details. If you click the link, the hacker gets your details. That's phishing. So you're trying to reel someone and you're throwing them some bait. You're trying to reel them in. Phishing. A good example of phishing, look at this. A Barclays phishing letter. So a hacker somewhere will think, okay, let me contact this Barclays customer and give them some information that looks really legitimate. Once they click this link, your proper bank details are sent to the hacker. Then they go into your account and empty it and take your money. That's phishing. 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 Brute force attack. If you use brute force, you're trying to use every possible method to guess somebody's password. So a brute force attack is one way to try to get into somebody's account, trying to simply guess their password. Pay close attention. Background knowledge. Before we get into SQL injection, let's quickly talk about SQL and what it is. SQL stands for Structured Query Language. Structured Query Language is the language of databases. So databases use structured query language. Structured query language is the language of databases. Before we get into SQL injection, SQL itself is structured query language. And SQL injection, that's another type of attack. SQL injection. Databases use structured query language. This is a database. This is a symbol for a database, and this is an injection, SQL injection. This has SQL injection. These are web forms. Web forms communicate with the server using SQL. So this here, you don't see it, but when you type something in, a web form is communicating with the server on the other end using SQL. It uses SQL to communicate with the server. So web forms communicate with the server using SQL. Remind yourselves that we're talking now about SQL injection. Web forms talk to the server using SQL, communicates with the server using SQL. And SQL injection can be used to bypass. It can be used to bypass the authentication. So it can be used to bypass the tests to see that you are who you say you are. SQL injection can be used to bypass authentication. How it does this on a web form is this. Malicious code is entered into a web form and tries to change the SQL statement that goes to the server. That is a very simplistic way of looking at it, and I'm going to run through it again very quickly. Malicious code is entered into a web form and tries to change the SQL statement that goes to the server. This is the malicious code that tries to change the SQL statement that goes to the server. Malicious code, SQL injection, can be used to bypass the authentication. So web forms communicate with the server using SQL. So this web form communicates with the server using SQL. If you put some malicious code in here, this SQL injection, you can bypass authentication. You can delete parts of the database and you will have control over the database on the server side. So SQL injection bypasses authentication, can be used to bypass authentication.